Here's the thing. What Kizza Besigye is going through today, he's been going through for 25 years. In many ways, it's nothing new, but just gets worse and worse. 25 years ago, he wrote a critique of the national resistance movement. We were still one system, the NRM. And he circulated to members of the CA. And he laid out what he thought was going wrong in a movement that had started as a liberation movement. And in that, as soon as he circulated to the MPs, he was arrested and brought before the court-martial for breaking army rules. He argued that he did not break any rules. He went before the court-martial and said, I am a CA delegate. I'm a delegate in an assembly to make a new constitution. This is my contribution to the MPs who are making the constitution. I want them to discuss the system that we have before us. The president said, yes, we can discuss the issues later, but first you must answer for breaking army rules. Eventually, the charge was dropped because people of Rukonjiri, led by their bishop, went and pleaded to the president to forgive him if he had broken any army rules. But those issues he had raised in the paper, to this day, have never been discussed. So it was about him talking, it wasn't about what he had to say. Since then, a year later, he went out the public and said, I'm going to run for president. Life has changed forever for him and for us who live with him. Because that election was one of the most violent elections we've ever had. People were killed who were on our campaign. Others were arrested. Others fled into exile. He fled into exile himself. And like I say, from then on, he has lived as a hounded man, followed everywhere, arrested at every turn, blocked from meeting people. Here at the home, we are surrounded. He lives under constant surveillance. He lives under constant pressure. And framing continued. The framing continued. 5 years later, he was dragged before the court-martial again. This time, he was framed with, he was charged with treason, illegal possession of guns, terrorism, and rape, all at the same time, before the military court. We challenged that, and the Constitutional Court said he should be tried in a civilian court. Before the civilian court, one by one, those cases, it was proved that he was framed. But the sad thing is that the people who framed him, who were in the system, got promoted for their bad behavior. So we have a security system with many people who have the wrong incentives. If you punish the opposition, if you bully them, if you beat them, if you arrest them and frame them, you can get promoted. So that's where we are, that his life has been one of facing a more and more repressive system. So today we are here with fresh charges, similar to the ones they have done before, made before. They will bring a lot of what they call their evidence, but the truth is that the very system, the very people in the system who have framed him are waiting to get their next promotion. He was abducted from Kenya by Ugandan security operatives. We have that reliably from the very people who were picked up. It was Ugandans who drove him, who met him, who abducted him, who drove him to Uganda. And So this is a path that he has been on for 25 years of persecution for challenging and wanting to lead. And I see that other leaders also beginning to face those kinds of challenges. And I plead with President Museveni to reconsider his approach and to accept that other Ugandans also mean well for the country even when they disagree with him, and to work with them differently, not to bully them, not to buy off leaders in their parties, not to intimidate, not to allow the security forces to frame them. These things don't build the country. We will not ever solve the many challenges the country faces when we handle governance issues like that.
Right. You said you have it on good authority that he was abducted by Ugandan security forces, driven across the border. But if you follow international law, there should have been a process, a legal process that should lead to him being brought to Uganda. And as we're talking now, even the Kenyan government is under a lot of pressure. There is a lot of criticism because this is not the first time, and it's not just Ugandans being kidnapped or abducted from Kenya. Also, citizens from other neighboring countries, South Sudan, Ethiopia. So there is a precedence to that. So do you think addressing this problem as a Ugandan problem would be a sustainable way of dealing with this, or is need to have a regional approach? The EAC, the African Union, should have a say in how borders are being crossed to go and pick people that are politically exposed, or they challenge the system back at home.
What you're saying is right. There is due process for addressing crimes committed across borders, and that due process should be followed. In fact, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights issued a statement also really warning about not using illegal means to address what governments consider crimes committed across borders. So in this case, yes, it was absolutely illegal and against the human rights of the two people, Kano Besigye and Hajobed Kamlegeya, to be abducted and driven at night, leaving their belongings in Kenya and being brought into Uganda in the middle of the night. It was wrong, it was illegal. And I don't know, it's going to be difficult for the government to prosecute them having abducted them. It's going to be quite complicated.
Do you think there's a role regional bodies and the African Union or even international bodies could play in addressing this?
Absolutely. We need to have our regional body like the African Union, the East African Community, the United Nations condemn these actions by governments where people are abducted. Sometimes these people could even be refugees. In this case, they were not. They were even flying back after the weekend. But abducting people and taking them across borders to where they were not is illegal, and it should be condemned by all those bodies.
Let's go to the substance of this case, which seems to be driving again. It's not the first time Dr. Besigye is being charged with driving towards treason, because they say they found him with the firearms that are not legal, that are not licensed to him. Then there is another story I read where they are saying he was holding meetings discussing arms deal. This is, I think, in soft power news. They spoke to someone in the security circles, and they are basically trying to build a case of Besigye trying to solicit for arms, which would eventually be used to threaten the safety of Uganda. Are you surprised with such accusations or charges that is being preferred against him again? And do you think this will stand?
No, I'm not surprised at the allegations. As I've said, it's not the first time that he has been framed. Even I have been framed. For example, this charge of illegal possession of guns, I was framed. I fought this case of illegal possession of a gun for 2 years in the court here. They framed me. And eventually, the case was dismissed. And the judge actually warned the police about coming to court to lie, to frame a citizen. So there's nothing new. They've done these things to us before, and they're doing them again. We've seen this before, and it's just being repeated. You know, we can only wait for them to appear in a civilian court. But in the military court, we do not expect to get justice.
You fought alongside President Museveni the struggle that brought him to power. And you are not at a low rank. I mean,
I was not a high-ranking person.
But you have an influence. Politically, you have an influence. Do you think this is the time to once again have a discussion with President Museveni, especially in the specific case concerning the arrest of Dr. Kizza Besigye? And if you had that opportunity, what would you tell President Museveni?
I appeal to President Museveni to stop and reflect on the methods he uses to take forward his vision for Uganda. His vision is good. I don't doubt that. In fact, on many issues, I agree with him. President Museveni is very much a leader from the left, and so am I. I'm really a leftist. And on many global issues, I agree with him, and even on national issues. But it is the way he has chosen to lead that is problematic. I appeal to him to look at other leaders as also well-meaning, but maybe having different visions, or even sharing his vision, but thinking of different ways to pursue the vision. That's what makes a successful country. That's what makes a successful company. When you put on your board people with diverse opinions, and you thrash them out, and you choose the best way forward, that is the recipe for success. When I'm a leader where I am, I choose a team around me. My team are people who know better than me in key areas. I know my strengths. I play from my strengths. And I know my weaknesses, and I allow others to lead where I'm not strong. But that means I deal with difference. So it doesn't matter what level you are, whether it's a country or a global company or even a family business, you are better, you have a better chance to succeed when you can deal with different voices and strike agreements and work together, take them forward. This is really lacking here. Today, you have people who feel they are in, and they are few, and they are doing well, and you have millions who feel left out, who feel unjustly treated, and who feel even silenced when they complain. Now, that's not a recipe for success in a country. So And then people like Besigye who insist on asserting themselves, they get this kind of treatment from the security organs. I want President Museveni to know that his security system is in overdrive, complete overdrive, because the very people who frame others from his system, those people who go and fabricate and get opponents of NRM party, they get rewarded. And so the system has an incentive inside their incentives to keep framing and keep creating, fabricating, and criminalizing opposition. This is no good. This is no good. This is a result of over-relying on forceful ways to solve development challenges. If you emphasize the use of coercive measures, the coercive arm of the state is what works for you. The consensus building part of the state is the one you are not interested in. These are the results you get. You end up always using forceful means to solve every little problem or every different kind of problem. Whereas, in fact, you could use cheaper, more peaceful ways to take your agenda forward. So I really urge President Museveni to stop and reflect, because this solution of criminalizing and eliminating opposition through criminalization is wrong. And even the other way, which is eliminating opposition by buying them off, is also wrong. Today, we don't have healthy opposition parties. A party emerges, and then its leaders start being bought off. That's wrong, because an opposition must also have its space to build its cadres, to grow its leadership, to polish its agenda, and to contest. That is the best way. Without that, this idea that you can drive alone and force out and silence those who don't agree with you is a costly way to take a country forward. It's costly in terms of lives, it's costly financially, and it results in conflict.
So, besides the efforts to remove this case from the military court-martial to a civilian court, would you actively pursue a meeting with the leadership of government, including President Museveni, to have some dialogue?
I'll speak with everyone. And yes, I am keen to speak with the president, to speak with the leaders of, if they want to, other leaders, whether in the parliament or wherever, about ways forward. Because this is not just about Kizza Besigye. This is about how the opposition can have its space, healthy space, to play its role in a constitutional democracy. When you crush the opposition using these kinds of ways, how can you take a country forward? It's not a pathway to success. So I'm happy to talk with people about this, not simply about Kano Besigye, but about ways forward, peaceful ways forward, sustainable ways forward. Our country has so many challenges. We need teams coming in and trying their best, and if they are voted out, other teams coming in. That is the surest way to develop, not to insist that I am the only one who knows, everybody else wants to wreck this country. It's not true. People are well-meaning. All these people who get up to contest, they pay a price. They are not doing it because they don't care about Uganda. They do. They do. And if people choose them, then we go with them. Yeah.
You met Doctor yesterday in prisons. Were you able to get him to get a recount of exactly what transpired?
I did.
They were arrested and how he ended up here.
I did. And he was very clear that the people who abducted him were Ugandan operatives, and that they brought him, and he could, yeah, they were first of all trying to pretend to be Kenyans and were speaking Swahili, but even before they got to the border, they forgot, and one of them then went on his phone rang and he picked it up and forgot, and he spoke Runyankore. Now, which Kenyan speaks Runyankore? You see, so he knows who brought him. He doesn't know them personally, but they were Ugandan.
Was he tortured in any way?
No, he wasn't tortured, but he was sat on all the way. They packed them in a little car. They sat on them, on him and on Obed, and by the time he arrived in Kampala, he said he could hardly walk.
And how did they cross the border?
There were security people. The car was definitely well known because they were not stopped at the border. They just drove through, and then they stopped at a police station near the border, and they were put in another car and driven to Kampala.
Lastly, the question I would like to ask is a more personal one. You have witnessed Besigye undergo tremendous torture in the hands of government forces. For a while it has not been like that, but from the time he walked to work, when he decided to run for presidency, I think he's the most tortured politician in Uganda's history.
No question.
Yes, and this is your husband as well. Witnessing this for 25 years and still counting. Do you think? Does it ever flash in your mind? Maybe this is too much, or do you think this is a fight that is worth continuing?
Besigye chose what he wanted to do, what he wanted to commit his life to. When in 1982 he fled Uganda and came to Kenya and then left a job as a doctor to go to the bush. He's a very deliberate person. He knew he was committing himself. He was leaving behind a career in medicine to go to give his life to offer himself as a leader in Uganda. And he's remained there. He's consistent. He is a person who perseveres, who is quite selfless and doesn't care for personal gain. He's comfortable to live quite simply. Maybe you might not call it simple when you see us on a farm like this, but it is a simple life because he lives within his means. He grows his matoke, he has his solar power here, he does not spend on many things that are luxury, and he makes sure that his income comes from the things that he has. Now that makes him also a determined person who cannot be bought. No amount of money can buy him. He is also the kind of person who will not lose focus on what he's pursuing. He's relentless in that sense. And determined to pay the price, the highest price, for what he believes is the right course for the country. So he's a leader who, how can I put this? So he's not counting the cost. So when you say, hasn't he had enough? No, he doesn't count the cost. He lives every day to achieve his purpose, which is I've devoted myself to work towards lifting our country up, making it a democratic country, a country of equal opportunity and prosperous people. So when you say, are you not getting tired? No, that's what he has chosen. That's what he's chosen. And I respect that. The other people choose different things. You can see for me, I was a political leader, but at some point I made a choice that, I need to take my son out of this country. This viciousness in politics directed at us is hurting him. So I took another job, not the one I liked. I wanted to be MP. I loved my community, but I went away and I continued to contribute, but in a minimal way, because I work in an international organization. But he chose to stay and fight for what he believes are good things for the country. And he fights peacefully. He has been here mobilizing, and that's the way he chooses to contribute. So I have greatest respect for the path he has chosen, and I don't think he should be punished like this for choosing to also be a leader in his country.
Just one last one. We know that Uganda does not exist in isolation. Uganda has development partners that the government heavily relies on, depends on. Do you think it's about time to start engaging them at a higher level to call Ugandan government to order? I mean,
the development partners are partners, but they don't decide the political path of a country. They are from their own countries. So whether they are international bodies like the UN or the World Bank, or they are governments, rich country governments like Britain and America, they are partners who support our development, but they do not have the power and shouldn't have the power to tell Uganda how to solve its problems. It's true, we want them to dissociate themselves from these excesses, from a government that acts illegally and criminally and criminalizes its opposition. We expect them also to not participate and not encourage corruption in dealings between our various countries, our country and their institutions. We want them to have good relationships that benefit our people. But we don't ask them for solutions for our problems. No, we solve our own problems. So, and Uganda cannot have a good future if it places its future in the hands of outsiders. That never works. It just never works. But we want them to respect the rules, the international human rights law, refugee law. They need to work with Uganda in legal ways, right? So like now, they should be speaking out about a government abducting an opposition leader from another country. That should be condemned. No one is safe if that is the way they are going to operate. Because tomorrow, I have been framed before. I was framed with sedition, with illegal possession of a gun. Now, if I am traveling and they abduct me because they want me, this can happen to anyone. Before Besigye, it was 37 youth who had gone for a training on governance, and they get dragged to court and they are still facing, I think, charges of treason, capital offenses. So we don't need this. And we want our partners, indeed, also to be aware and to dissociate from such actions.
Thank you very much.
Well, to condemn such actions.
Thank you very much. Unless there is something else.
No, I don't. I've spoken too much. You're getting you. Kakati, where will you put this?
This goes to Reuters news service, so it will be
online?
accessible. Yeah, it will be accessible by
By the
broadcasters
other,
around the-
by the other.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah. You made the best interview. I want a copy of it for us.
Yes.
You brought the best of our time.
Okay. After I've put it out, then you have my number.
No, I don't. That's why.
Yes. Yeah. I will get your email. I can send you.
What is your name?
Justin Dralaze.
Justin
Dralaze.
Dranazi.
Yes.
Give me your
Thanks. Okay. Okay. Oh, just one. 0752 51 5115. I want to cut those questions. Yes. You send me a message, eh? This machine banana. Good for shooting the documentary. It's more for a documentary camera. That's all it. Is this one affordable? It is affordable. Depends on what you call affordable.
How much is it, like the whole set?
To build a full kit, you need maybe 100 million. The full kit. Yeah.
With this one, stands, microphones.
Yes, even more. It can go more. Depends now on choices of them. You send me a WhatsApp.
Yes.